in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this jaw. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech.
Welcome back to the show, gang. We are glad you're here. Last night, the Steelers beat the hell out of the Dolphins. Dolphins are out of the playoffs. Man, I hate football. You know, this season specifically just seems like everything you want, if you're me and you're a fan, has not materialized. In fact, the opposite of what you want ends up materializing. Pittsburgh beat the hell out of the Dolphins. I picked the Dolphins yesterday. And Miami shows yet again that their biggest weakness is playing in the cold. So we'll talk about the nuts and bolts of that game. I was on a date. And in order to pay attention to the lady across from me, I have to have my back to the TV with Monday Night Football on it. That's just, you know, I don't go out with a lady that much. We tend to stay focused around here. But last night, I did not get a chance to watch the game. So we'll do our best to speak on it. I don't want to speak on stuff I don't know about. But I imagine the game went about how I'd imagine it going. Sounds like Cam Hayward got a 1-yard run, touchdown run on a quarterback sneak. Sounded like Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Aaron Rodgers connected for a touchdown just like old days. And it sounded like Mike McDaniel just can't figure out how to get this team playing well in the cold. And the Steelers, look, they've got a chokehold on the AFC North right now. Baltimore's got a good chance to get in, about 40%, if I checked right. Miami was officially eliminated with the loss last night. People were starting to really talk about them as a playoff push potential team. They are eliminated. And as we get farther and farther into the trenches with this NFL season, we will see some of these bubble teams continue to get eliminated. I'd say the next team in the NFL to get eliminated from playoff contention will be Dallas. Carolina has lost their hold on the NFC South after that game against New Orleans. Tampa Bay is back in first of that division at 7-7. Two worst divisions in football this year: AFC North and NFC South. NFC South's probably a bit better than the North, but I don't know. If you had the Steelers face off with the Bucs, I think that'd be a pretty good game. If you had Baltimore face off against Carolina, I think that would be a decent game. I'm not sure if they played this year or not. But anywho, man, this is going to be a short one. We probably got 24 minutes left on this show today. I got an appointment about 30 minutes away, around 3. So hang with me until then, guys. Get your refreshing beverage of your choice, like my old mentor Tim Welch says, and let's get into it. Look, guys, I saw an article about the Bengals that I wanted to touch upon because it made me so depressed. It made me the opposite optimistic. And guys, I'm closer than ever to withdrawing my support for this Cincinnati Bengals organization. Paul Dehner Jr. is a writer for The Athletic. I follow him on Twitter. I read a lot of what he writes for The Athletic, and he released an article this morning. And this is what it's titled: Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, and Al Golden, insight on who might stay and who might go with the Bengals. So and we talked about this yesterday. Let's talk about it again today. I think the Bengals organization, if they're not going to be held accountable, the best thing we can do is try to hold them accountable. Let's count the ways that Sunday went bad for Cincinnati. You guys ready? Eliminated from the playoffs for a third season in a row with Joe Burrow shut out for the first time in his career. Beaten mercilessly and talked trash about post-game by a previously under 500 division rival. Burrow, already under the microscope for unhappiness, in front of the microphone, pointing out as fact, we haven't been a good football team. Bad football teams do losing things. Ushering fans into the stadium in frigid temperatures and not attempting to clear the seats of snow and ice, leaving long lines of fans outside in a bottleneck trying to get in as kickoff neared without all the gates staffed to alleviate the reported 45-minute delay. Then taking a viral beating from fans online in the process. Fans wore bags on their heads, booed consistently, good for them, and chanted for firings before hitting the exits. Star receiver Jamar Chase was caught on camera yelling at fans who were heckling Burrow to back off. 5-year NFL veteran and starting running back on last year's team, Zach Moss, even posted, been telling people, easily the worst franchise in sports. How do you recover from that? And if you're Cincinnati, if you're the Bengals front office, to do nothing? I'll spoil it for y'all. The take on this article is that Zach Taylor actually has 2 years left remaining on his current deal. He signed a 5-year extension after the Super Bowl run in 2021. So a lot of people thought that Zach Taylor's contract was due to come up next year, which would make a firing make more sense. That was actually a misconception. Zach Taylor was extended for a 5-year deal in 2021 after the Super Bowl run. He was extended again for another 5-year deal after Cincinnati made it to the AFC Championship in 2022, the very last time that Cincinnati made it to the playoffs. So Zach Taylor has actually got 2 years left on his deal. I don't know how many terrible days you could rack up following the Bengals this season. I don't know how many terrible days you could rack up, whether week 2 with Joe going down, get the 2-0 start, but at what cost? The 3 weeks of Jake Browning after that. I mean, you think about the despair that the fan base felt getting beat by a bad Vikings team like it was a Pop Warner game that should have been ended early due to mercy rule. Not even being able to watch the team for the next 2 weeks after that at Denver and then playing Detroit at home. And it looked like a JV high school team playing against an NFL team. Or whether it was the benching of Logan Wilson with little to no explanation in week 6 after you had potentially fixed the issue on offense, signing Joe Flacco. This organization finds a way to create problems where they don't exist. And they bench Logan Wilson, and that saga plays out. And that is what I attribute to the downfall of the defense of the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals. Completely self-imposed, completely in their own way. And that's what's most frustrating about it. It's not like the Cincinnati Bengals organization is facing adversity due to external factors. They've got everything they need going for them. They cannot get out of their own way. And there's probably thousands and thousands of people today, yesterday, Sunday, saying all of this. And the worst thing about it is that Bengals ownership hears this stuff. They have to. There's no feasible way that they are so isolated, so under a rock, so uninvolved in the community that they're not hearing this. There's just no way, right? The worst part about this is they hear all of this and they just turn the other cheek. They just turn a blind eye to it. I think it's a superiority complex. I think this family that owns this team genuinely feels, simply due to their bloodline, that they are better human beings than the rest of us. And they know better than hundreds of thousands of people that seemingly put more into this team than they do. It's all egotism. It's all egotism. It'd be, I mean, imagine being in that family. Imagine having Mike Brown as your dad. Imagine the trauma that comes from that. Because you know that guy ain't listening to anybody. And it's one thing if you win in life, and they probably do feel like they're winning in life. They got a $5.7 billion football team. It is the lowest valued team in the NFL. So if you want to compare yourself to your peers, you're not doing that great. But somebody small-minded like the Brown family or the Blackburn family, they might just be cool comparing themselves to the common man and saying, well, we're doing better than old Jerry working in plumbing down there, living in Hebron, Kentucky. We're doing better than Jerry. You know, we got a $5.7 billion football team. It's the lowest valued team in the league, but we're still doing okay. It's just like every single aspect of how the Bengals ownership behaves, every single thing you see from a public eye that they do, it's kind of easy to diagnose the internal condition of these people, and it's very dark. It's very troubling that people can get to this extent of delusion, not even based on your own achievements, based on the achievements of your dad or your grandfather, and somehow thinking that doing things the way that my grandfather did them 50, 60 years later in a sport that has changed more than we can even speak on in the last 5 years, let alone 50. And we're just so convinced that we have the answers. It doesn't matter if the whole world is criticizing us. And listen, there's a mentality behind that in certain circumstances would actually be a positive thing. If you're running a football team and the football team's having success and nobody can tell you nothing, well, that's justified. That's verified. Your team is winning. And I think that's really where the main discrepancy is. I don't think that this Bengals ownership group is out to improve the city of Cincinnati, the culture of Cincinnati. They don't really care or are good stewards of the fact that this team serves an integral role in the cultural fabric of the city of Cincinnati. They do not care about that, and therefore they are not good stewards of that. They care about the personal gain of their family and, most importantly, themselves. And if we defer to that logic, then profit is the most important thing to make sure that my family and my children and me have a financially secure life. And that's not a bad pursuit, by the way. But what makes this situation very dark, very, I don't want to say evil, but it almost is evil, the way this family is doing things, the Bengals ownership. And I'll tell you why it's evil. It's evil because you have a responsibility to the city. The Brown family may not feel like they have any kind of responsibility. They clearly don't, and they don't feel a single bit bad about it either, which makes it even more terrible somehow. But you serve a unique purpose when you're in charge of arguably the most important aspect of a city's cultural fabric, a city like Cincinnati. You could get away with having owners like this in Miami. You could get away with having owners like this in LA. And by the way, the Rams and the Chargers are both thriving right now, very well-run organizations. But you could get away with this kind of ownership mentality in a place like, I can't think of any others right now. But a city like, because there's other cultural components that will sustain themselves with Miami or Los Angeles or I don't know. I can't think of any other places right now. But a city like Cincinnati doesn't have anything else, really. The Reds, they're not run well either. I don't know what's in the water in Central Kentucky, Cincinnati. There's something. that gets in people's minds and infiltrates it with complacency. There's something. I listened to a Feinbaum interview with new Kentucky coach Will Stein. University of Kentucky is, of course, in the place that I grew up in. And he's got a different tone to his voice. It'll be interesting to see how that program at Kentucky continues or tries to change what they're doing. They hired Joe Sloan, an offensive coordinator, who ran a very underwhelming LSU offense this season. Definitely took a downgrade in terms of the clout of his job. You know, you go from LSU to Kentucky, right? That's definitely a bit of a downgrade. And Joe Sloan was heavily criticized all season as LSU's coordinator. Maybe he just needs new soil. Maybe he needs a new head coach. Maybe he gets a couple things in Lexington that he didn't get in Baton Rouge. But what are those things? What things could he possibly not get in Baton Rouge that he could get in Lexington as a football offensive coordinator? Oh, shit, man. That's funny. But this is why I'm troubled today. The Cincinnati Bengals ownership, and I know that, you know, you got the Steelers and the Dolphins on the cover of the game. Like I said, I was on a date. I didn't really watch it. I don't want to speak on something that I don't know about. It looks like Pittsburgh's going to win the AFC North. And listen, in the AFC, it's really coming down to Indy and Baltimore. I don't see a world where neither team doesn't get in. But also, look, if the Steelers win the division, they'll be in at that 4 seed. You got Denver at the 1 right now, New England at the 2, Jacksonville at the 3. That is so crazy. 10-4, the Jacksonville Jaguars. LA Chargers at 5. They're going to be AFC West champs, I'd imagine. Sorry, Denver's AFC West champs. Sorry. So that's a wild card spot. Buffalo get in at the wild card spot because they will not probably win. I don't know. We'll see if the Bills win the AFC East or not. And then you got the Texans getting in that 7th spot. So Indy and Baltimore could both miss the playoffs. But they're the only 2 teams left not in the playoff field, but still in contention. On the NFC side, you still got 3 teams left. Cowboys are technically still in there, but they will not make it. Carolina is on the outside looking in after losing to New Orleans. They briefly took a lead in the NFC South, but then gave it back up when they lost to New Orleans on Sunday. That sounded like a cool game. And then at the 8th spot, the first team out right now in the NFC is Detroit, and I don't think any of us would have expected that. They were beating the Rams on Sunday, and then the Rams posted a comeback. We talked about this yesterday. 6 10-plus point comebacks in Week 15 in the NFL this week. That is tied for the most 10-point or more comebacks in 1 week in league history. It's heating up. As a football fan, I am really excited to see how this Baking soda. Thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. As a football fan, as a fan of the sport, I am very excited to see where this season goes. No matter how you cut it, it's going to be unpredictable. It's going to be chaotic. There's going to be a lot of magic in the air. As a Bengals fan, I'm utterly hopeless, numb, apathetic, and disappointed because this was a year that Joe Burrow, with the right management, would have won a Super Bowl. And now Bills fans get to say that. This is Josh Allen's year. Last time in Highmark. Last season in Highmark. Go Bills, baby! You know, it just... I used to like the Bills, man. Their fans have just pissed me off lately. DeMar Hamlin, we talked about him yesterday. He, you know, glad he's still living, but he pissed me off too. So, wouldn't it be funny if the team that won the Super Bowl was an AFC team after as bad? Dude, I mean, like, look at the top 3 seeds. We're the top 3 seeds in the AFC going into Week 16. And I want you guys to think about this in terms of, like, look at this from a lens of we're in August right now. And I tell you this, what name would you call me if I told you in August that in the AFC going into Week 16, your top 3 seeds are Denver, New England, and Jacksonville? What would you tell me? Because I know what I'd tell me. You're smoking crack. You got 3 teeth left in your head, and the third to last one starting to fall out. There's no way that your top 3 seeds going. And again, we're talking about looking at this as if we're in August right now. You're smoking crack if you told me in August that Denver, New England, Jacksonville, those are your top 3 seeds in the AFC. Could you imagine if you could bet on that? Maybe you can. I don't even, it would probably make me sick to my stomach to see how much money you can make from calling that. So I don't know if it's parity in the league. I don't know if it's low quality in AFC. It might just be chance. With all the injuries we've had, this is the most injury-laden season I've seen following the NFL in 23 years of my life. You know, I became a conscious human at 6 years old, play football at 6 years old, start following the Bengals at 6 years old. So that's 23 good years following this league. I've never seen a year as injury-riddled as this season has been in the NFL. So that might be part of why the AFC is really not good this year as a whole, at least based on expectations, based on the quarterbacks we have in this conference. Wait for this to catch up. You got Allen. You got Burrow. You got Mahomes. Burrow and Mahomes both missing the playoffs. Officially. You got Lamar on the outside looking in. You had an
and blue. I wish my fucking stream would figure it out. Sorry, but you right here on a normal hoodie. And Brian Hoyer had one that was all white with a gray logo and gray stripes, and it was freaking iced out. I wanted it so bad. No sound. He's saying no sound? Let me see. Let's check in. And I do have to run in a second too, guys. We had trouble with this yesterday, but I felt like we fixed it. So I'm going to check on the stream now just to make sure. It looks like my connection is lagging a bit. Okay, we have sound. I don't know what he's talking about. Appreciate you hollering it out. We had people in the chat yesterday hollering out that we had no sound, and it ended up being true for the first 14 minutes, but we fixed it. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the macro point of the episode was today. Just talking more about Bengals ownership, how there's absolutely no hope for this franchise. If Joe Burrow ever wants a ring, he's going to have to get the hell out. And if he does get the hell out, I'm going with him. There's absolutely no hope for the Bengals. And I don't know. Some part of me thinks that if we just bring it to light and we talk about it, that one day people are going to be held accountable because they have a responsibility to the city, and I feel like they neglect that. I think they just feel like they want to line, the Bengals ownership just wants to line their own pockets and take care of themselves, when in reality, what you have to acknowledge when you step into a role like NFL ownership in a city like Cincinnati is that you have stewardship over the cultural fabric of the city. You are responsible for arguably the main aspect of the city's culture. When the team is not winning like it has been, Cincinnati is not as fun of a place to be in. I remember the pride I felt, dude, telling people that I was from Central Kentucky and that I was a Bengals fan and that I grew up with the Bengals when 2021 and 2022 were going on. The pride I felt was so special. And for the last 3 years, it's just gone. It's like the opposite. It's like shame. So I think the fundamental issue with the Brown family and the Blackburns is that they are self-absorbed people. And they neglect and scoff at the idea that they are responsible for the cultural fabric of the city. And unfortunately, the dark side of the sports business, I've seen it. I've worked for dysfunctional organizations like the Arizona Coyotes, who no longer exist. If you want to hear about dysfunctional organizations, take it from me. I'm telling you, I worked in one. Indy was a great organization to work in, by the way. If you want to know about dysfunctional organizations, I'm your guy. I've been in one. I've been in one that was so dysfunctional that it no longer exists. And the Bengals are headed that way, by the way. It might be a justice to the world. But the dark side of sports is that the owner knows that at the end of the day, there's nobody above him. There's nobody that can fire him. And they know that there's no accountability for the decisions they make because they got little hacks in the sales office like I was to answer for all of their decisions while they sit up in the owner's suite or wherever, feet on a desk. And it's really dark. It's a really dark aspect of it because I'm sure a lot of Bengals employees, a lot of ticket sales people, a lot of membership people are having to eat a crock of shit on the phones, talking to fans on a day-to-day basis. And Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn sit up in the office. Duke Tobin, the ones making the decisions. And by the way, Duke Tobin, the de facto GM of the Bengals, Duke Tobin's the first guy that needs to go. It's clearly a personnel problem on the field for Cincinnati. Duke Tobin
is who needs to be fired. And this is a symptom of a dysfunctional organization, man. He's the last guy that's going to be fired. You know why? Because he's basically family to the Browns. His dad was a dear, dear friend to Mike Brown. Basically brothers. Duke Tobin's basically like Mike Brown's nephew. He's not going anywhere, even though he should. So we'll continue to advise on the situation. I do have to run, guys. It's good to get on here. Good to be on here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If I could ask you just for one thing, subscribe to the channel. We're the fastest growing football channel in the land. We're live every day with new football discussions, Monday through Friday, about 6-ish Eastern. We're a little early on days like this when we have appointments, but I figure getting here is more important than being perfectly on schedule every day. Wouldn't you guys agree? Anyways, you can listen to us on audio platforms. I got to update the audio platforms. We got daily clips. We got Madden streams on the channel every now and then. Live commentary of games every now and then. There's no reason, if you're a football fan, not to subscribe to the channel, because you're either going to be in at the ground floor right now, or you're going to see us here in a couple years and think, oh, man, I should have caught that wave when I saw it first. So hit that subscribe button. I know a couple people have today. That's pretty badass. And just like that, we've come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be traveling on Thursday. And we're going to find a way to give you some live shows from Kentucky. We're going to find a way to give you some live shows from Florida. That's where we'll be over the holidays. And we'll continue to churn them out, continue to show up, continue to be consistent. That's all we can control, right? It's things the Bengals ownership group is not doing. Okay. Love you guys. Subscribe. Let me know.